Hi everybody. I was looking at the maintenance schedule on my Honda FT500, and in relation to the oil, it says, if you look down, number 3, replace every 2,000 miles. If you go to 4, oil filter element, it shows you number 4 and it gives R for replace, and it says, as I'm sure you can see, every 3,600 miles. Well, they don't add up. You know, you're not going to change the oil at 2,000 and then at 3,600 change the filter. So I think that every second time you change the oil at 2,000 miles, you would do a filter change. Now, changing the filter is quite easy, but if I turn to the maintenance part too, there's the bolt to empty the oil. There's the filter and the cover. But here underneath, I reckon it says you should clean the oil strainer, and that sits within the sump. So if I spin round to my bike, I don't think they call it the sump, they call it the oil pan. It's pretty easy for me because my engine's lying on its side on the bench. But when I took the oil pan cum sump off the bike, half the gasket was stuck hard to the pan and half the gasket was stuck hard to the sump of the engine. Now, it was relatively easy for me to scrape that off. It was hard, it was super hard. The way it was effectively glued to the metal face, but using a Stanley blade and a wood chisel, I was able to get that off. But if you were to try and do that with the engine in the bike, that would be hellish. But it'd only be hellish the first time, because after that, what I suggest you do is put a smear of oil on this face and a smear of oil on this face before you put the gasket on, and you shouldn't have a stuck gasket the second time. Now, I looked at the bolts that came off this, which are in here, and one of them, the head was slightly chewed, so I think someone has tried to get this sump off before. Maybe they have had it off, but my bike has 15,000 miles on it, so it should have in theory been off maybe 3 times. Anyway, it's off now. But when you take it off, it's well worthwhile cleaning out this strainer. You see there's bits of crap in there. And even worse in here, these little areas in the sump oil pan. Look at the filth that's in there. It looks like grass or something. That's filthy in there. It was pretty filthy in here, and it wasn't great in the pan here. There was actually a lump or something in there. It was like maybe sealant or something from the original time the engine was built, I'm not sure. So it's well worth doing, removing this oil pan and cleaning out this filter whilst you replace the actual oil filter every second service. I would say 4,000 miles, but you're going to have a difficult job. It's likely scraping that gasket, because obviously you need the surface to be very smooth, so when you put the new gasket on, you get a seal and don't end up with an oil leak. So best of luck with that. I don't suggest that you take the engine at the bike as I have, but I want to paint all this. I think the guy who had this bike before me, knowing where he lived, I think he's run it on the beach, so the underneath was kind of sandblasted, so I've painted part of it. I'll paint the rest now. But I just thought I'd make a little video about the oil issue. Hope it helped you a little bit. Thanks for watching.